My dear students, today we are discussing a new topic on global security issues and concern. I hope you have already gone through my previous lecture on US hegemony. So today I'll deliver another lecture on the issues of different issues of global security dilemmas, the different sorts of challenges, how different sorts of challenges came in front of global security dimensions, and along with that, how these United Nations organizations you know uh, plays their role in terms of securitizing the entire world. But in this particular lectures, I would like to basically highlight on different sorts of global security issues which increasingly become more vibrant, specifically in the post-Cold War phenomena in the age of globalizations. But before start, you know, about discussing about the global security, I'd like to highlight two important ideas which form the basis in terms of uh, creating a kind of consciousness in terms of global security dimensions. And in this context, there are two concepts are there. Number one, that is the concept of human development, and number two, the concept of human security. And these two concepts, human development and human securities, are interrelated. And these both concepts basically, developed in the post-Cold War phenomena, specifically in the post-1990s phenomena, when United Nations organization initiated the process for, the publication of United Nations development programs. So under that particular initiative, United Nations development programs, each and every year, these UNDPs publish their annual developmental index, annual developmental report in terms of human well-being, in terms of human mankind, in terms of human prosperities, in terms of different sorts of aspects of human life, so that you know uh, it could be beneficial in terms of social capital, in terms of economic development of individuals, in terms of the security of the individual, in terms of human securities, human rights, social security, gender justice, many more things are interrelated, along with these two particular concepts. The first one, that is this human development, it's basically this human development report 2010. It defined the very concept of human development as the expansion of people's freedoms to live long, healthy, and creative lives, to advance others' goals they have reason to value, and to engage actively in shaping development equitably and sustainably on a shared planet. And in terms of human development, in order to understand the functioning capabilities of this human development, we have to put emphasis upon two important functions, that is valuable beings and valuable doings. So beings such as being well nourished, being safe, and being educated. And in terms of doings such as being able to visit loved ones, traveling, caring for a child. So, in terms of these valuable beings and doings, the very concept of human development is, interrelated. And in terms of this human development, the question of capabilities is also very much related, and with particular ideas well elaborated by the great economist Amartya Sen as well, in his capability approach. So this very idea of human development that basically gradually developed with the the kind of new ideas of development that has been accelerated in a post-Cold War phenomena, specifically in the age of globalization, in terms of quality development of human being, or the overall development of the entire society as a whole. And but this, the concept of human development cannot proceed alone. Along with this human development, this human security need to be prioritized. So that's why it's gained momentum. This very concept of human security also gained momentum along with the concept of this human development, because for the proper development of human being must feel secure from each and every aspect. Human being must get a kind of free and fearless atmosphere where they can think positively. So that is the relationship and human security. Regarding this human security, this Mahbubul Haq in 1994, in their UNDP's Human Development Report, which was prepared in that particular year by Mahbubul Haq. In UNDP's Human Development Report in the year 1994 was prepared by Mahbubul Haq, and in that particular report was basically highlighted the very concept of human security, where this Mahbubul Haq basically focused upon the 7 specific parameters of human security, which the number 1 is considered as economic security. It symbolized the threats from poverty, unemployment, indebtedness, lack of income, etc., which is very much important for the proper development of a human being. The second one is food security. It focused upon the threats from hunger, famines, and lack of physical and economic access to basic food. Number 3, that is health security. It threw light on threats due to inadequate healthcare, diseases, other health hazards. Then environmental security, it highlighted on threats from environmental degradation, natural disasters, pollution, and resource depletion. Number 5, the personal security, it includes the threats due to crime and violence. Then community security, the security paradigms include in its domain about the threats from discrimination and abuse of various groups, armed conflict, and also threats to the integrity of cultural diversity. So it's basically talking about the overall community security. And at last, that is political security. Here the threats come due to the political or state repression, human rights violation, including torture, etc. So it's a kind of process. These 7 different parameters of human security basically highlighted the transformation of the very concept of security from this traditional version of security to the non-traditional dimensions of security. Because whenever we're talking about the traditional dimensions of security, it's basically talking about national security, state security. But in the post-colonial phenomena, in the era of globalization and neoliberal state structure, the non-traditional security dimensions gain momentum, and a human being must associated with these new dimensions of security analysis. So that's why new parameters came into the forefront in terms of proper overall all-around development of human being, because this human development and human securities are interrelated. Until and unless a human being feel secure, they cannot contribute it a quality they cannot contribute qualitatively for the prosperous of the society. So that's why for the quality development of the society, the proper development of the society, for the rapid development of the society, both the concept of human development and human security must parallelly go. So in a nutshell, human security is a child who did not die, a disease that did not spread, a job that was not cut, an ethnic tension that did not explode in violence, a dissident who was not silenced. And this was the definitions provided by Human Security Development Report 1994, most probably page number 24. These quotations are available in that particular report, which as a whole highlighted the significance of human security. How the question of human security become more significant in present context, and in the age of globalization, since everything become global in character. So in the each and every every aspects, each and every incidents, each and every happenings, each and every development that directly or indirectly related with the human life. So there's a close connections in terms of this human security and global security. If there's a human insecurity, that automatically transforms itself in a global insecurity domain. So it's very much important to understand the global security issues. We also have to understand the human security paradigms as well. There are a lot of goals that has been projected by Commission on Human Security to be achieved by all the members and non-member state of United Nations, because uh, this very initiative taken by United Nations organization under this UNDP, and since each and every member, there are, say for example, in present country we have 195 member countries of United Nations organization. They have to follow, if they have a firm belief in terms of human security, because the very objective of United Nations organization is based on for the establishment of international peace and security. So to realize that international peace and security, this human security is also very much important. So this Commission on Human Security, which is a kind of forum under this United Nations organization, they projected three important goals. The goal number one, to promote public understanding, engagement, and support of human security and its underlying imperatives. To develop the concept of human security as an operational tool for policy formulation and implementation. And thirdly, to propose a concrete program of action to address critical and pervasive threats to human security. So, member state need to follow. The concept of human security is basically gained momentum in 1994, which I have already told you that 1994 United Nations Human Development Report, where it boldly stated the idea of human security through the symbol is likely to be revolutionize society in the 21st century. That is, 21st century is to be a prosperous society. We must put emphasis upon the very concept of this human security, because this is a humanitarian concept. It's always talking about human space. It's always talking about human fulfillment. It's always talking about human mankind. It's always talking about human development. It's always talking about social security. It's always talking about social justice. So everything related to the human being. So being as an individual, human being must get that much of advantages for society. The paradigms of human security dilemma that gather attention in the writings of Dwight Eisenhower, he basically focused on human insecurity in the conflict-prone areas due to armed violence, because the security of the human being in most cases violated, and it's become more, the magnitude of violence become increases during the time of armed violence. And for that, this Eisenhower make a kind of statement in terms of this violence, armed violence, insecurity, and human security. Is stated that every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger, and the not fed those who are cold and not close. So these things are interrelated. This human security always talking about the security of human being, but nowadays, due to this huge investment by each and every nation state in terms of their defense mechanism, in terms of their securitization, in terms of their arms and ammunitions, the question of poverty has been diluted. So there are lots of global insecurity issues, namely this terrorism, then human migration, clandestine trafficking, organized crime, the proliferation of weapons and technologies, drug trafficking, and many more. This terrorism, whenever we are talking about terrorism nowadays, this terrorism becomes global in character, it's a global terrorism. And the mindless and senseless activities that's conducted by these different sorts of terrorist groups, they increases the security dilemmas in different parts of the world. And as you all know, this Professor Jenkins' definitions, any activities inject primarily to inject fear in the minds of the people, that is basically known as this terrorism. Every kind of activities which primarily injected in order to, create fear in the minds of the people, that is terrorism, on the basis of which they can able to terrorize people. That is terrorism. So there may be the activities like kidnapping, there may be the activities of murdering, sabotaging, genocide, killings, bombarding, many more activities conducted by these terrorist groups in order to destabilize normalcy in a particular stabilized society. So this is one kind of crucial issues in terms of global insecurity. Then human migration. This migration of people from one place to the another place. Sometimes the migrations can be considered as a positive articulations, as a positive dimension of the society. But in most cases, this human migration of people from one region to the another region, that sometimes create a kind of increasing pressure to the new the area, that also a kind of security dilemmas. That means along with this human migration, it's a huge migration of people from one region to another regions. The new regions face the trouble like land pressure, economic pressure, and they may no longer capable enough to take that particular burden, that responsibilities. So that may evaporate another source of insecurity in that particular new places as a result of this huge amount of migration of people from another places to these new places. As a result of which, what happened is clandestine trafficking took place. The lots of illegal activities took place in these new regions, and for which ultimately leads to the organized crime. This is one kind of significant this dimensions in present context. There's an increased number of organized crimes in different parts of the world as a result of relative deprivation, as a result of aggression, frustration, relationship, as a result of poverty, as a result of frustration. Many more effects are there on the basis of which this problem increases. Then another aspects of this global insecurity, that is the proliferation of weapons and technologies. This proliferation of armaments, this proliferation of these armaments, these weapons of mass destructions, that also increases the security dilemmas in present context. Then another aspects of global insecurity, that is drug trafficking and arms trafficking. The trafficking of narcotic drugs, specifically in the landlocked regions. For example, in the context of South Asia, we have the problems of these narcotic drugs trafficking issues, which increases the cross-border security challenges as well in this South Asia specifically. So not only in the South Asia, in different parts of the world, this drug trafficking, this arms trafficking, these are some sort of problems in the underdeveloped regions, specifically the Asia, Africa, and Latin Americas. Say, for example, this India is considered to be the largest, importer of arms and ammunition, and this United States of America is considered to be the largest exporter of arms and ammunition. This Pakistan is considered to be the fourth largest, importer of arms and ammunition. So these countries like India, Pakistan, they are busy in terms of importing these arms and ammunition because there's a kind of huge border issues, the huge tension in the border. In terms of India, the China factories is also there. But other than that, along with these issues, the landlocked characters of South Asia. So, for example, this Myanmar, this Bhutan, these are the smaller regions of South Asia which are considered to be landlocked, and as a result of which, these landlocked characters, it increases the cross-border security challenges from one region to the another regions, and this drug trafficking, arms trafficking increases in this part of the world. Then this bank fraud nowadays, this banking sector, but very ironically, there's an increased number of bank fraud in each and every parts of the world, which also a kind of global insecurity issues. Data has been manipulated, data has been hacked. There's a kind of estimation, there's around $200 million are lost every half hour in the world due to frauds in the banking system. That means after every half an hour, people lost $200 million. It's a kind of world data. So there's a huge amount of this bank fraud increases nowadays. That is also violated the economic rights of the individuals. Then this regional conflict. as a result of this relative deprivations, the feeling of relative deprivation, frustration, aggression, relationship, from international relation perspective, the increased number of regional conflict, that also increases, because some kind of activity in the regional perspective, in the local perspective, but its consequences spread in the global context. So that is also kind of new dimensions of this global insecurity. Then the aggression on the state strategic cyberspace, because nowadays from state side as well, there's a kind of cyber department as well, and so has happened in terms of non-state actors as well. That means in a particular state-centric mechanism, there are some centrifugal forces and there are some centripetal forces. So this centrifugal forces always try to destabilize the situation by creating some sort of wrong practices. So on the basis of which, in the kind of cyber world as well, there's a kind of increasing number of cybercrime that also create problem in terms of this global security. There are some specific terms and names that has been related to the global security issues. Whenever we are talking about global security, we always use the word proliferation. So proliferation of what? That may be proliferation of weapons, that may be proliferation of informations, anything may be proliferated. So we have to stop these proliferations. Proliferation of people, proliferation of weapons, proliferation of data, because nowadays the data can be hacked. And nowadays, to win a war, you cannot use the bullet. You can win a war by hacking the data of your hostile partners. So this proliferation of everything needs to be stopped. Then again, we use the word universal declarations. It may be the universal declaration of human rights, many more. There are lots of universalist approaches are there. So we need to work on it. We need to universalize everything. And but these universal approaches have some sort of criticism as well, in terms of this universalizing issues. This radical relativism or cultural relativist approach also came into the forefront. But we are using this terminology. Say for example, universal declaration. Say for example, this is related to human security. That means universal declaration of human rights. So we should work together in terms of universalizing these facilities so that human rights of the people of the entire world get protected. Then another that term, that is political dissent. Nowadays there is every kind of possibilities of political dissent. Maybe as a result of recognition, maybe as a question of status quo, maybe as a result of identity issues, maybe as a result of insecurity, many more things. Maybe as a result of dissatisfactions, this political dissent may arise. Maybe as a result of your right to freedom of speech, right to criticism, this political dissent may arise, which also we need to work as together. That gender inequality, it plays a very significant role nowadays in terms of realizing global security. We have to overcome these problems of gender inequalities. That means since gender is a very socially constructed idea, so we need to work how in the societal context we can apply this gender perspective by going beyond these biological differences of male and female. So on that context, we have to work in terms of secularism as well, so that we can offer similar amount of respect from both the sides. So it's a kind of it's a question of reciprocal relationship in terms of the gender equalities. Then the another issues like AIDS nowadays, it's a kind of pandemic issues. It's a kind of AIDS is considered to be endemic disease. So these kind of problems need to be worked together, because specifically in the post-Cold War phenomena, these problems of AIDS become endemic in characters, specifically in the sub-Saharan areas, and people lost their lives. And when people lost their lives, there's a kind of estimation from the health this WHO, that the people affected with AIDS is between the age group of 15 to 49. And if we look at this age group, this is the age group who contributed a lot in terms of economic development of a particular regions. This is the time where the human being can devotedly contribute it for their own self and for the society as well. So it's a kind of huge impact in the economic development of a particular society due to the deaths, increasing number of deaths as a result of AIDS. So these issues also need to be taken care. Then the issues of refugee is also, this refugee issues. As a result of this refugee issues, this question of extradition, this question of asylum, many more things came into the forefront. We have this United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee. They work a lot, but there's an increased number of homeless persons. There's an increasing number of landless persons increases from in different parts of the world, which violated the rights of the security of those individuals. So that also need to be taken care, which ultimately increases some insecurity in the global context. Whenever we are talking about the global security from United Nations perspective, these United Nations organizations, not only these United Nations organizations, there are lots of collective global security parameters. There are different sorts of initiative from collective global security perspective. So, for example, number one, that is nations unite and take action. For example, this NATO. During the time of Cold War, this NATO played a very significant role in terms of forming a kind of group, a military organizations. But basically, NATO was a kind of organization to counter this Warsaw, which is formulated by this USSR. But nevertheless, these military wings, to some extent, they intervene in different parts of the world in terms of realizing the collective global security issues. That peacekeeping activities that has been conducted by United Nations organizations, that has been initiated from 1945 to till today. We have lots of examples in these peacekeeping operations initiated by United Nations organizations in different parts of the world. Say, for example, in Bolivia, say, for example, Rwanda, say, for example, in Bali, say, for example, in Albania. There are many more, peacekeeping operation forces conducted by United Nations organization, where United Nations organization get lots of success, but at the same time they face a lot of trouble as well. Those things need to be debatable. Then there's an increased number of non-proliferation treaties, specifically during the time of Cold War. We have different sorts of non-proliferation treaties, and that also helped to some extent the development of this disarmament, the process of disarmament. Then some glaring examples of this collective global security is considered to be disarming Iraq, because from 1980s there's a kind of alarming situation in terms of Iraq during the time of Saddam Hussein, and there's a kind of suspicions by the world community that Iraq has been manufacturing these biological and atomic weapons. So in several times the United Nations organizations sent their weapon inspection team to Iraq to investigate, but this Iraq rejected this the initiative taken by United Nations organizations. Then health related issues, which I have already elaborated regarding this AIDS epidemic. So in present context, specifically from 1990s to the present context in this to 2020, we have found lots of increasing threat perceptions where we need to work together. Number one, that is international transborder wars. For example, this Iraq and Kuwait in 1990s and 1991, then US Iraq, that's 2003. Even today, till today, there are lots of interventions. Then this internal or civil war, for example, the current conflicts in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has led to the millions of military, guerrilla, and civilian deaths. Then genocide and large-scale human rights abuses, for example, this Darfur cases. Then national and international terrorism, for example, Shinrikyo and Tokyo subway system in 1995, the Islamist attack on the transit system of London and Madrid. So these are the finest examples of how threat perception increase in the global context, and how this the issues of global security become more crucial. That's why we need to work. Then fifthly, paramilitary groups and crime organizations that can facilitate terrorist strikes, for example IRA, FARC, and right-wing extremist groups in the US. Then proliferation of nuclear, radiological, chemical, and biological weapons. That means that we have to stop this proliferation of these weapons. Then pandemic threats due to infectious diseases, for example, from 1918 to 1990, the flu pandemic, and the current possibilities nowadays in the context of H5N1 strain of different sorts of flu pandemic. Sort of threat perception. Then again, other widespread diseases, especially AIDS, HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria. Then international financial instability, such as 1997 to 1980 East Asia financial crisis that spread from Thailand to many other nations, including the Philippines, Indonesia, even to Russia as well. Then again, for example, in 2008, this economic crisis in this Europe, that is also very significant. Then number 10, protectionism, especially the European Union Common Agricultural Policy and US subsidies for cotton and other crops that have had devastating effects on developing nations and their populations. It is then global climate change, global warming, and other environmental threats. This is also very much crucial. This global warming issues that also increasing threat perception in a global context. The natural disasters, including earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, and tsunamis. These are some global security issues, security threat, which came into existence as a result of natural disasters. Then again, this poverty, hunger, this malnutrition. This is also crucial issues in terms of global security uh, dialogue, where we need to work together to overcome this kind of problems. Say, for example, in the context of India, India is considered to be the second largest producer of this rice, second largest producer of wheat, first largest producer of sugarcane. But at the same time, there are the total amount of malnourished people in the entire world, and among all those malnourished people, almost one fourth reside in India. So how in this part of the world this poverty, hunger is very much crucial. The imbalance of energy supply and demand, particularly with the emergence of nations such as China and India as a major demander of the energy, at the same time that some energy supplies are being depleted or exhausted. So in that context, we also have to highlight this NSG, the question of this NSG nuclear supply group, and many more things. These energy issues also need to be debatable. Then the question of failed and failing state. Failed state means they have already failed to do something, and failing state, that means they are in the process of failing, not as a result of their own effort, but as a result of some negative activities conducted by the other countries. So as a result of this failed and failing states, this is a very dangerous effect in a global context, and that particular failed or failing states may take retaliate in the later phases in a global context. Is a kind of security threat, global security threat. And at last but not the least, and this is the crucial one in present context, that is the coronavirus and pandemic COVID-19. It's a very now it's a global insecurity. It's an increased number of threat. For example, this devastation of the entire world economy and human life. As you all gone through this this pandemic situation nowadays in present context, we are in the home as a result of the spread of coronavirus, and how as a result of the spread of coronavirus and pandemic COVID-19, human life become more vulnerable. How we people in the entire world become more vulnerable. We have to stay home. We cannot do anything. We become helpless. And you all have been experiencing with how this economy, the world economy, slowly and gradually gets collapsed. There's a kind of lacking in terms of economic development, maybe as a result of lockdown, maybe as a result of this huge amount of spread of this pandemic, these diseases from one country to the another countries. So so we need to work together. because these things are interrelated. Along with this increased number of threat perception in the global context, this global security issues increases, and that will, hamper the proper human development, the proper human security, the proper economic development of the entire world. So we need to work together to overcome these sort of problems, and United Nations organization have to play a very significant role. This United Nations organization continuously played a very significant role, but they have to do something better. And for that, maybe in some critics talking about the restructuring of the present structure of United Nations organization, some are talking about the restructuring of the present structure of security councils. But apart from that, beyond those initiatives, in terms of humanitarian perspective, the entire world community must come together to find out the solution how these threat perceptions can be minimized. So in that context, we have to think positively, and in that context only, this the insecurity dimensions can be minimized, and we can able to securitize the entire world. So with this word, I would like to conclude my today's lecture on this global security. uh, I request all the students to go through my lecture and try to understand, and I'll come with the another lecture in my next videos. So thank you very much. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you.